Clowns. The light in the circus. The ball of enjoyment. Your best friend. But don't you think there's always something strangely off about them? Something disturbingly entertaining? Something kind of creepy? Well, here's 4 stories of clowns who did a little bit more than just blow balloons. Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and get ready to walk through the Circus of Horror Studio 1. The Circus of Darkness. She saw a clown. It was 1989. I believe at around 9:30 to 10 p.m. And everyone in the house was already settled in, except for my 2 oldest sisters, 13 and 14. They were getting ready for bed and were in the bathroom, which had a connecting door to the basement near the toilet. My eldest sister was actually using the restroom while the other one was brushing her hair. Well, as she was doing that, she heard a strange noise coming from the basement. She was the one that actually told me the story. I was too young to remember anything. She asked my oldest sister if she heard the noise, and she said yes. So then she walks over to the basement door and opens it slowly. She peeks her head around the corner to see the most shocking thing that she has ever seen. She told me that she saw this person or demon crawling up the stairs like how a baby would, dressed in this clown suit, holding what looked like a knife in his hand. She told me it was like a dwarf because it was smaller than a midget. She gasped and could not move. When she did that, it looked up at her with this freaky grin, then put the knife in its mouth and started up the stairs more quickly, stumbling and catching its toes on each step because of how short it was. She could still not move, but was making a hesitant sound that scared my eldest sister, who then came and grabbed her arm but could not move her, as if she was transfixed on the demon by a force. Just about near the top, she let out a scream. She then told me that thing stopped, stood up on the steps, to then laugh at her, sounding like a child. Then he fell backwards, falling on the steps with dead weight, looking like a person with no control of their limbs. She was then pulled into the bathroom with the door shutting hard by her sister. My dad heard the scream and came to the bathroom. They told him what happened, and he went downstairs to find what they saw. He could not find anything that resembled what they told him. The Cartoon Clown. This is my first story on here. I know that some people will say that this was a figment of my imagination, and while I would love to believe that, I know that it wasn't. So please, I know you mean well, but don't leave a comment saying I was dreaming or imagining things, okay? Okay, great, thank you. Now to start with a little background. I was 5 years old at the time, living with my mom in an apartment. My parents had just recently separated. The layout of the apartment was, you walk in and to the right is the kitchen. Besides the kitchen, to the further right is the dining area. Go forward from the door and there is a hallway on the left where the bathroom and my mom's rooms were. Go straight and take a step down into a sunken living room. To the left of the living room looks like a closet-type horizontal wooden slat doors, but they were actually the doors to my room. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Moving along. That day I was at home, sick, I had a terribly sore throat and could barely speak. I had cream of tomato soup and toasted sandwich for lunch and could not finish the sandwich as the toast was too hard and hurt my throat. The point of me telling you this is that you know that I remember the details of the day leading up to my experience. I digress. I spent the day with my mom and cuddled with her while we watched Young and the Restless. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by the sound of the chain coming off the door and the deadbolt unlocking. I thought it was my mom, letting her boyfriend into the apartment as he worked until late at night. I heard footsteps coming through the hall and down into the living room, stopping right outside my door. At that point, I was terrified. I didn't hear my mom talking to her boyfriend or him saying anything at all, and it was completely silent. The wooden slats in my door shifted and opened, and I saw a 6-foot cartoon clown standing outside the door looking in at me. I know it may sound funny that it was a cartoon, but I guarantee you that it was terrifying. It opened the door and came into my room. It walked over to be standing above me in my bed. I was trying to scream, but because my throat was so sore, I couldn't make any noise. It had a teapot or something in its hand, and it was holding it over me and was starting to pour something onto me. I started thrashing around in my bed, trying to make it go away. It worked. I was like, I hit a rewind on a video. A slow rewind, but a rewind nonetheless. The clown backed out of my room, closed the door, and the slats closed again. I heard the footsteps retreating through the apartment. The door open and close, and the deadbolt and chain go back on the door. I tried calling my mom, but my voice still wasn't working. I finally got up the courage to go and get my mom, and she came and slept with me. She didn't believe me, and her, along with the rest of the family, laughs hysterically and brings up my little story. I know more than anyone how ridiculous it sounds to have a cartoon clown torment you. I also know that most of you will not believe me and say that because I was a child and that I was imagining things, but I wasn't. I know what I saw, and it was terrifying. A disturbed feeling. I'm currently 23 years old and live in upstate New York, and I've lived here for the most of my life. The house I currently live in is a stone house and was part of the Underground Railroad. I've never had any feelings while living here of unease. However, in my old house, I would always get feelings that something was watching me or was with me. Throughout my childhood, weird events have happened to me in that old Victorian house. My father's uncle, who passed away before I was born, painted a picture of a clown, and it was framed and hung up on the wall. No matter where you were in the room, the clown's eyes were watching you. One night, when I had a friend over for the night, we both noticed the clown's eyes were changing colors. No cars were driving by, and for the most part, it was completely dark in the room. After that night, I took the painting down, and it is still put away up until this day. The most chilling event, however, happened late another night when I was alone. The house has 2 stories, and my parents' and brother's rooms were upstairs. I often stayed up later than everyone else downstairs and watched TV. But when it came time for bed, after shutting the lights off, I would get a feeling that something was with me. One night, it happened to me. I shut the lights off and used the downstairs bathroom before going up to bed. As I rounded the corner to head upstairs, I picked up our cat, that was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, and while standing up, I was grabbed by something. Something reached out and grabbed my left shoulder. While I was standing up, and out of fear, I ripped my shoulder back and ran up the stairs as fast as I could. I didn't even look back. Being 12 years old and that scared, I ran to my room and jumped in bed, and didn't say a word to my parents or my brothers until the next day. I know what had happened was real, and whatever grabbed my shoulder felt as though they had strength of 2 men. I feel as though there was something really wrong about that house, even though the stone house I live in is a lot older and has a lot more history behind it. My dad said that when he first came to look at the stone house, the owner, who lives in Long Island and maybe came up twice a month, was playing this weird music about calming the spirits. That may be weird, but I've never been uneasy at our new place since living in it for the last 4 years. The Ugly and Laughing Clown. This took place in the late 1950s. The basement of my aunt and uncle's house was where they lived until they built a house on top of the basement. It was large but had very little lighting in it, which most of the bulbs to the lighting in the ceiling were taken out, and only 3 worked. 1 by the steps, 1 by the bathroom, and 1 in the largest room. The lights were turned on by pull strings. As children, we were too short to be able to pull the strings to turn on the light. The basement had many small windows around it, but none of them opened. The daytime playing in the basement one could see okay, with the many windows around it. At nighttime, it was very dark. My younger sister and I spent a lot of summers there. My cousin Maxie had a nice size big bedroom. In it was a lot of stuffed animals and these ugly clowns. I would often beg her to put them away while my sister and I were staying in her room to sleep at night. She would tell me I was a crybaby, just wanting to go home before I was supposed to. No matter how much I asked my mom, why did we have to go over there every summer? I never did get an answer to many of those questions. One night shortly after, my sister and I were there in my aunt's house. My sister woke up and had to go to the bathroom. We had to get up and walk past the shelf, where the clowns were down many steps to the dark basement, where the bathroom was. I held onto my sister's hand as we went down the stairs, only a light to show us the steps. We had to cross over the other side of the basement to the bathroom in the dark. We made it to the bathroom, but while inside the bathroom, we could hear laughing. My sister is hanging onto my hand really tightly. I was trying to be brave. I left the light on in the bathroom, and as it showed us up to the steps, instead of walking in total darkness, we climbed all the steps and ran back to her cousin's bedroom. On her shelf, where the clowns were, one was looking right at us and laughing. We got into bed and covered our heads. My cousin Maxie woke up and wondered why the bedroom light was on. We told her that ugly clown was looking at us and laughing. She got up and went to that ugly clown, took it off the shelf, and threw it onto my sister and I, making us scream loudly. Our aunt came into the room to see what was the matter. We told her of the laughing ugly clown. So our aunt took the clown out of the room, turned off the light. I'm looking at that shelf in the semi-darkness and I can hear the clown laughing again. I just covered my head up and got close to my sleeping little sister. Some days went by and nothing happened. Maxie and my sister and I went to the basement to play one rainy day. I said, did you hear that? Maxie tells me she heard nothing. I said, "It's that ugly clown again laughing." She told me I was lying. I asked her what her mom did with the clown. Maxie said that she didn't know. She said she had all those clowns in her room for years and she'd never seen or heard them laugh. A while later, we were playing outside. Maxie, my sister, and I went to go around the corner of the house when I stopped abruptly. I came face to face with that clown. My scream was heard across the street. The lady from across the street came over, and so did our aunt from inside the house. Maxie ran into the house. I told my aunt and the lady across the street that the ugly laughing clown was there. They made me think I was hearing and seeing things, and all would be fine. Sometime later, I was in the basement going to the bathroom with my little sister. We had the door closed to the bathroom. We could hear Maxie screaming and banging on the door to get in. We let her in and the lights went out. I could hear Maxie scream, my little sister crying for Mama, and the laughing of the clown. It got nearer and nearer to us. It drowned out the crying and screaming into the bathroom. My uncle came into the basement to see what was going on. He turned on the lights by the stairs. His daughter flung herself into her daddy's arms, still screaming. Then she said, I was going to come down here and scare these two crybabies. When I got down here near them, I saw the clown off my shelf looking mean and laughing." Our uncle took us all upstairs to their room. "See," he said, "the clown is still there, pointing towards a closet in his bedroom." We all looked, and to no surprise, we didn't see any clown in there. We went back to Maxie's room, and right there sat that ugly clown. Our uncle asked his wife if she put it back in Maxie's room. She had not, yet it was there. Eventually, my aunt took all the clowns off the shelf and burnt them, told us that we would have no more problems with them again. My sister and I went home. We told her mom we were not going back to that house again. Something was wrong with that house. We never did have to go back again. I saw Maxie about 3 years ago at a wedding. I asked, "Do you remember those clowns I used to have when we were young?" Her face turned white. She dropped her glass. She told me never to mention about those clowns or any clowns to her again. I learned from Maxie's sister that Maxie's room was closed up and locked. Maxie and her sister eventually had to share a room. When they moved out from that house, Maxie's stuff was in that room, and it stayed with the house, still with the lock on the door. I am now in my 50s, and to this day, still afraid of clowns.